Welcome to this presentation of a new and very interesting handbook about how to date Chinese porcelain from facial features and adornments shown in a piece. This book is the first in the world with a comprehensive and systematic approach. But first, some background about dating Chinese porcelain. All collectors and sellers of Chinese porcelain want to know what they have and the age of their pieces. In some cases, they can find the date by comparing with other pieces which have a known date, for example from shipwreck cargoes, if we know when the ship sank. Armorial pieces that often were produced to celebrate a special event, a marriage, or something else. Provenance from big collections, as in this case August the Strong collection, museum inventory lists, and so on. Or pieces which are dated directly on the porcelain, such as the cyclical dates which can occur together with poems, as on this plate, or a date in connection with a special gift or event. When we get a piece in our hands and want to know what we have, so of course it's the best if we can find such fixed dating features, but normally we can't. With a long experience, we can look at colors, enamels, shape, painting style, paste, basis features, marks, and so on, and compare with pieces that have a known date, and with that information pinpoint a possible date for the piece. We can also try to find a very similar piece in auction catalogs, museums, or the internet. Pieces which experts have previously dated with known dating methods. Such a process is very time-consuming, and you need to have a good basic knowledge to judge the given information and to judge if you can trust the suggested date. I will be back to the present plate in part 3 of my presentation. As soon as the Chinese people learned how to make porcelain, they started to make copies. In the beginning, the copies were made to honor earlier reigns and generations and to transmit culture, religion, and stories to new generations, but also to learn and provide knowledge of the production technology. The very high prices of Chinese porcelain, tens of millions US, have also resulted in another reason to copy: to cheat customers for better price. Today there is a widespread copying. Many of the pieces we see in online auctions on the internet, for instance, are copies. All collectors and sellers therefore need an instrument, a tool for dating, and to help determine authentic pieces from fakes. One such important tool, and a great one, is this book. The handbook represents an important tool for dating and determining fakes from authentic pieces, a milestone for dating Chinese porcelain for museums, collectors, and dealers alike. I will in this presentation 1 tell you about the background of the book, the dating process, and the structure of the face images, which are the cornerstones of the book. In presentation 2, I will give examples of its content and what customers have thought about it. And in presentation 3, I will show the best way to use the book with some case studies. The whole thing started in January 2007 in the discussion group of Gothenburg.com, where I'm a senior member and also moderator. We had often observed that similar facial features on porcelain occurred in the same period. In connection with the discussion of a piece, I created a simple comparison table with such pertinent features. All members were very enthused and started to photograph pieces with faces from their own collections, from museums and auction company previews, and send them to me to see if I can find more comparable features. Why faces? Faces are difficult to copy. When making such a decoration on the porcelain, the same person probably painted hundreds or thousands of the same and similar face every week for maybe 10 years. The painting skill was so high that they, with only a few fast brush strokes, could create a face with a happy, amazed, or sad facial expression, and all with a free painting style that most later copies still lack. When I started the face project, I thought that the change of reign changed the fashion of styles and features, and that this also had an impact on the porcelain painting. So I gathered the faces into reign categories, but very soon I realized that my thoughts were only partly right. The same category faces occurred parallel with and appeared during many reigns. I therefore decided to give each face a date, despite the impossibility to attribute an exact right date of the manufacturing. Now the project was ongoing. All images of the faces from Chinese porcelain decorations were stored in a database, together with pictures of the piece itself, including base and detailed images, so I could go back and change my mind about a piece if new information was found later in the project. The database grew each day, and when the book was ready to print, not less than 3,900 faces were stored, dated, and categorized, including 1,500 men, 1,495 women, and 910 children, in a time span from late Ming to the present day. Each face had to be dated. The faces which had accurate dating determined by actual dates, cyclical dates, ship cargo information, armorial pieces, or provenance made up the framework of the project. All other faces were dated by using the standard dating features of a piece, such as the shape, colors, motifs, paste, enamels, bases, and so on, and by comparing these pieces with other dated pieces or pieces that earlier had been given an estimated date. I call that method Closology. With this method, and with a gradual increased new information for each studied piece, I believe most faces now have estimated dates within plus minus 10 to 20 years. I then started to bundle the faces, which had similar facial expressions and painting style, and gave them a category. I found that 29 such categories met the need to sort each face adequately. I also gave each face a code for facial features, such as hairdos, headgear, outline colors, different adornments, clothes, and so on. Each feature was described, dated, and represented in diagrams and images to facilitate use and indicate relevance and importance. I shall now try to explain my method I used for dating the faces in the project. If we have an accurately dated framework piece and it contains decoration with faces, I can label the faces with the fixed date. Of the project's 3,900 faces, 1,150 came from accurately dated pieces. This 27% of fixed dated faces became a very good framework for the rest. These dated faces pieces, but also pieces which lack faces, are interesting as they have accurately datable features such as borders, enamels, shapes, bases, marks, and so on, which can be compared with pieces we want to date. In this way, I get pieces with estimated dates and which therefore lead to estimated dated faces. For verification, I compare with fixed dated faces if possible. The estimated dated pieces had new features which could be compared with other pieces, and so the circle goes on. For each piece I studied, the accuracy and the certainty increased. I call this method Closology. Let's see how the Closology works as a method for dating. We start with this documented piece for the Iberian market, marked with Isabelita Perez de Ferran, which is attributed to about 1820. We compare with other pieces and find a plate with exactly the same border. This plate can thus be placed in the same period, about 1820 plus minus 10 years, as exactly the same borders normally don't exist for more than about 10 to 20 years, and probably less time span than that. We now have tentative dated faces with an estimated date of about 1820 for future reference. Another example. We start with a plate produced for an event when the governor in Spain, Ignacio Herrera, was appointed Marc de Almendares in Cuba 1843. That plate has no faces in the decoration, but exactly the same border could be found on another piece that was decorated with figures. Thus I could give my plate an estimated date to 1840s. I compared with other faces in the same category and found a very similar face, also tentatively dated to 1840s. So far, so good. That plate had another border, which could be compared with yet another one with similar border, which has a fixed date 1842. Perfect. The faces on that plate could therefore verify all the other faces' estimated date about 1840s, as they all belong to the same category. As the faces were stored together with images of the piece itself, this process increased the certainty and the accuracy for every new object I studied. When the faces had been dated and categorized into separate categories, all facial features, adornments and clothes were identified and categorized with a searchable code. Here is an example of a code of a face. The first 4 digits tell the fixed or estimated date for the face. ZW. Z is only a letter to make it easily searchable for me, but W stands for woman, M for men, and C for children. RI tells the position right, also used for me to make it easier to compare with other faces. PRRI is profile right, and so on. Q19 is the category this face type belongs to. There are 29 such categories. O1 is the outline color, in this case number 1, which stands for black. H1 is the code for this low hairdo. AE5 stands for adornment ear, and number 5 is the size of it. AH1 stands for adornment hair, and in this case number 1, which is a diadem. XD means that the piece is accurately dated, so the face has in this case a fixed date of 1903. This is only an example, and many more codes can be found. This is the end of presentation 1. In the next part of the presentation, part 2 of 3, I will show you some of the contents of the book. The contents is the result of 7 years ongoing face project in the discussion group of Gothenburg.com. Thank you for watching.